Welcome back, Trek Time lovers. We are here with Best of Both Worlds, a Part 2 review. We have just finished watching the episode on a back-to-back session of watching both parts of Best of Both Worlds, and the conclusion has happened. Picard has been rescued, the Borg cube has been destroyed, Earth is safe once more. Gentlemen, how do we feel about Part 2 over this Part 1? The long 3-month wait is over. It has been a torturous summer. We've had to sit in the sun drinking Coca-Colas by the pool and going, God damn it, what has happened to Jean-Luc Picard? Will he come back? Dan, take us away. What were your feelings when you first saw Part 2 of this? When you were a wee lad of, what was it, 14 you said? 12, 14? When you first watched this?
Something like that, 14, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was a satisfying conclusion. I was really happy to see the gang all back together, right? It at the time, I think it reassured me that Shelby and Riker were able to make amends. Looking at it now, it seems oversimplified. They just completely dropped any antagonism they seemed to have, and it just fell a little bit flat. But at the time, it was just kind of a big hug, right? We got our show back. We were worried about what would happen to the next generation, and it's looking like it's going to be smooth sailing from here on in. So, rebuilding the fleet, I think, there's an opportunity. I always love the starships and excited to see. I think all the kit bashing they did paid dividends, where they get to bring back a lot of those. We got the Nebula class from here on in, and a few other ships that make multiple appearances.
Yeah, we have the, just to go through, we have the Freedom class, the Niagara class, the Cheyenne class, the Challenger class, Springfield, New Orleans, not like you say, Nebula class. And there was also a Planet of the Titans Enterprise in there as well. A few vague models that they threw together.
I also remember being
Constitution bridge as
there is. Yeah, there's a destroyed Enterprise from the Search for Spock in there as well.
Yeah. So my disappointment about the Borg kind of being finally defeated. Here is our opportunity to have the recurring villain, right? Well, we don't know that at the time, though, right? But it seems like this is pretty final. They've got a way to beat them, and if they ever come up again, they can just do what they did before, right? Even though the adaptation, we'll see if the the word got back, but yeah, I really loved the Borg as a kid. I thought that was the coolest villain, and to see him just kind of like completely gone, was kind of a downer. That's about what I can remember. What do you remember, Idol?
What do I remember? I remember the Part 2 being
Idol,
like...
why did you draft?
Why did I draft this?
Part
I mean,
2?
we can essentially go back to Part 1 and go, because it's the best of both worlds, and it's so cool. So naturally, Part 2 will gonna precede Part 1. No, I remember, going back to the first time I watched this, and because it was the UK, it was a fair bit of time after Part 1. We had all sorts of delayed schedules, and due to the BBC's licenses and things like that. But we did eventually get to watch it a long while later. I don't know what the exact time was, but yeah, the point was, we had this big build up to the deflector dish being this ultimate destroying weapon. I was thinking, right, it's going to do some damage. No, it kind of just fizzles out on the hull. You're a bit like, oh. But to be fair, it did follow up with some other awesome moments in this episode. This episode was also written by Michael Piller, who comes back for the new series now with a fresh contract to start writing more, and again, directed again by Cliff Bole. And it's a weird thing, like you do find with a lot of Part 1 and Part 2s, especially separated by seasons, will be directed by different people. However, this one was done by Cliff Bole again, who did Hide and Q, Hollow Pursuits, Redemption, Defiant, Facets, Cold Fire, The Q and the Grey, and Dark Frontier, which is kind of what I'm interested to see. I kind of want to keep this Borg thread going, but I feel like Family is probably the most we can take it before everyone kind of gets sick of him and we ruin it. So the original Best of Both Worlds aired on the 18th of June 1990. This one aired on the 24th of September 1990. I'm going to reiterate a point, which is a common complaint about modern television here in the contemporary year of 2026, and that we'll have seasons of like 8 to 10 episodes and then have to wait 3 years for the next season. This was like 3 months, and a lot of people do remember it as the long sort of season of, oh god, we can't wait for this to be, because it was a watershed moment for Star Trek, for sci-fi fans, for kind of like anyone watching television at the time, because 1990, how much serialized content was there like this? How many big cliffhangers on television were there like this? I imagine some, but not quite as important as this. And I think it's developed like a whole a waft of Star Trek fans who wanted to tune in. Like Star Trek became a I need to tune into the next episode kind of television in the way that it hadn't been before, but where it had been episodic, and you could kind of go like, I'll watch the next episode in 2 weeks' time, will be fine. And this was kind of essential viewing at the time. Anticipation for this episode was so great. It's from Memory Alpha. That someone even concocted a fake.
From your diary.
This is, yes.
How great was it?
It's so great. That someone even concocted a fake version of the script that ended up in the possession of some fans and brought Picard back by revealing that his assimilation was merely a prank by Q. The real plot of this episode had a difficult birth. Rick Berman later admitted, when we finished the first half, we had no idea what the second half will be. This is one of the first examples of sort of any television producer, studio or movie studio keeping the scripts a secret. They didn't want anything leaking out, back to sort of like Wrath of Khan kind of days. But it was a very closely guarded secret. The script drafts were secretly numbered by changing the designation of Jupiter Station in the script copy. So they kind of did like, right, so Jupiter 1, 2, 3, 4, and they go, Jupiter 4's been leaked. We know who did that. All the final draft scripts, however, were known as Outpost 92. Stars Auto, talk to me about this episode for you guys.
That kind of reminds me of when Half-Life 2 came out. Some Russian hacker got a hold of the source code like a few months ahead of time. They leaked it, and I think they addressed it in the recent Valve documentary, among other times, where it said, paraphrasing, it's like someone's seen you naked. Like, it's not ready yet. It's a big deal. I DM'd Idle about a week ago. I said, hey, the rest of that music from your stream, can you upload it to me for me to
Yes.
SoundCloud? I want to hear it. Not ready yet.
It's not ready
So there
yet,
is. I appreciate the people. There's so many people that work so hard on these episodes that I don't begrudge them a bit of secrecy for trying to keep this all under clamps, because you want it to be perfection when you release it.
Stars.
Yeah, I always love when I can tell that Idle's about to do a Memory Alpha pick because he has a certain tone of voice that he always adopts for
And
it.
also, I look over to my other screen like this.
Well, that also, but I'd be able to tell even if he didn't.
Oh, I thought that was a mirror over there.
No, I have that down here.
Okay.
Stars, please, save me.
So, this episode is kind of worse than I remember.
Wow.
Especially going at it with that critical eye. Like, Shelby becomes a nothing character. Like, absolutely just defanged, and like, it's very obvious that like going into part one, like you can tell they had like a. I feel like there's so much. There has to be truth to the idea that they didn't know Patrick Stewart was going to come back. Because there's a lot of stuff to Shelby that you could unpick, and here they're like, no, don't look at that. No, don't. There's nothing here. Shut up. Don't look at it. Don't look. It's resolved now. It can't get. You said it best, Dan. It can't wait to start unfucking the plot and just going, no, that's not a problem. No, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. There's a lot of really good spectacle, and the moment to moment is excellent. But it feels surprisingly empty to me in a lot of ways, especially the ending being just like Riker going, "Yeah, fuck off, it's none of your business." Bye, in a way that implies that he doesn't know either what he wants to do. Just that it ain't that, I guess. It's a weird episode. Like the moment to moment of it is great, and then I look back at it and I go, "It's kind of empty calories." I guess I know where Picard season 3 got it from.
It's odd because
Calories.
you kind of like you go from like the big moment of things not working. You have another big moment of doing the saucer separation, and then the big firework display. Riker doing his poker bluff, which I feel like they didn't make enough of a deal about, because he's like, well, Picard knows what that I would do, but I know what he would do, so I'm going to do this because he wouldn't know that I would do it. But it kind of doesn't get played off like that. And then after that is where the episode kind of slows down, which is weird because you have this really lush tracking shot of like Worf and Data in the shuttlecraft, and they have this big action moment. But after that, when they get Picard on the ship, he kind of goes through a weird kind of like, I am new alien to your society. here I am. And it's kind of like, it almost feels like Picard's, or Patrick Stewart especially, is like, I'm going to do this for fun. Like, he feels like he's having fun in the moment, and it's a little bit divorced from the threat of the situation. And the Borg cube does get to Earth. And again, I'm referencing the motion picture, and the motion picture felt like, oh shit, what's going to happen to Earth? Like, this is going to be this big threat. And there's been some other situations like that where the tension is high, but the Borg cube kind of just hovers there. And they kind of take their time to sort of... There's no shots fired at Earth. Like First Contact, the sphere turns up, and immediately they start fucking shit up. They beam stuff over to the Enterprise. They're destroying the Phoenix. And this, they're kind of just hovering there. It almost feels like the Borg themselves have been defanged a little bit with their indecisiveness. I do like Jaina Cycle's comment. I like the sleep command as a clever exploit of a low privilege command as a Borg system hack. Yeah, the sleep command is something that overlooked. And I mentioned this in the watch along as well when they do the whole sleep data. It's like Daisy's like, I can work this out. I can just send them all to sleep, and then they just blow up. Because and I feel like the excuse is like, they blow up because of, the Borg are going to self-destruct their ship because they've been compromised. But I'm like, this just feels like lazy writing. It's like, and then, we couldn't work out how to destroy them, so we blow them up.
I know, that's the part I have the least problem with. Like, the interpersonal stuff is what I feel like is least satisfying here. There's a lot of really good build-up, especially with the Guinan conversation. It kind of goes nowhere. But dealing with the Borg by executing exploiting the machine and utilizing the power of the man is a very Star Trek thing to do. And we all ragged on Hansen for his browbeating and his chest thumping, but he wasn't necessarily wrong about parts of it, which I think is decent. But yeah, I do think they sell. It's a really lovely visual, the cube hovering over Earth, but it doesn't really come to much. You kind of want to see something. Maybe they take a chunk out of a continent or something, and then you just
they do this indie thing. Yeah,
what Picard is working on in Family, rather than trying to raise Atlantis like a fool.
It's not as gripping a moment as Population 9 billion all Borg, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think, man, Stars, you and I are vibing on this because empty calories. And one of the things that struck me as we were watching it is we spent almost the entire episode just chatting. Maybe that's what
there's a lot in part one when we weren't.
Quickly, but it was just so empty. It wasn't unwatchable. I think it's fine. I got to see everybody doing their thing. Another thing that struck me too is at the end of the first episode, the end of the first part, you've got Troy and Beverly and Shelby all standing up to Riker all together. The females are aligned, and this is the direction we need to go, and you need to stay here and keep an eye on the house while we go to work, right? And this one, they are all just kind of like Beverly has it wrong with the sleep communication, and Troy is just, I don't know what she's doing. She's just not doing anything this episode. And Shelby just completely backs down. And it's just like, you talk about being defanged. I feel like everybody in this episode was really just kind of like there for the ride. And, the plot was driving itself. I just didn't get much action at all out of this, despite as having one of the highest number of effect shots ever produced for a TV show. And it being very pretty to look at, and there's an excitement to it. There's certainly some suspense and drama, but it's just full of nothing.
So because I remember this from the Memory Alpha, the Star Trek Next Generation companion notes that the two female main characters play important roles in saving humanity. It's Dr. Crusher who determines the Borg's fatal flaw, and Troy realizes it's Picard attempting to fight through his programming. Michael Piller was intent on servicing even the lesser-used members of TNG's ensemble, including Troy, from the beginning of fourth season onward. So apparently they thought it was more than they had been getting to that point.
And that's good. That's something,
at least. Twice nothing, still nothing, as the saying goes.
This is hilarious to me because I prefer this to part one, and you guys are so down on it. Wow. So I said
I
right at the end,
you'd like it more, but
I like it a little more. I don't love it.
Yeah.
This was the fastest I've watched. I watched so much Star Trek in my life, like 100,000 episodes, and I know I can probably close my eyes and count to 42 minutes and be right on. This went so fast, but it's weird because as I was watching it, there were a few. I feel like, okay, this is a regular episode. There's no music. We're doing techno babble sitting around the back station. I'm like, if we get too many of these scenes, we're going to run out of time for everything else. And then I blink and the episode's over. I'm like, whoa, that went really fast. So normally when it goes fast,
kudos on the direction.
Normally you're enjoying it so much, it's like you don't realize time has passed. And this was a little different than that.
Yeah, I felt like we were talking a lot, and we were riffing on the episode as it was kind of happening, and we were talking about various things. I think a lot of it was that the episode pacing sort of like suited itself to. There was a lot of like short little pods to the episode. There was like the dealing with the Borg cube, and then there was the Wolf 359 section, and then there was the abducting Picard section, and the whole source of separation, and then there was the dealing with Picard, and there was lots of little short sections that sort of kept you engaged and kept you moving through the episode.
Ticking boxes.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, in a way. Yeah.
So you know what? I think the part of the thing is that, like, looking at part one as, like, I mentioned when we were when the shuttle takes off in the Enterprise and you get the cool antimatter effect shot with the cool sideways profile, that's awesome. And I said it's a bit Star Warsy, and I'm thinking about it now. And if part one is like A New Hope, and if this is like The Empire Strikes Back, but and then that would make Family Return the Jedi, which is where all the emotional catharsis is, because like the conventional opinion is that Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie, and maybe it is, but it's not my favorite. Return of the Jedi is my favorite one because it has the most emotional catharsis.
Most Ewoks, yes.
This is an entirely different conversation for another day, but yeah, okay.
Well, I guess no, it's relevant. Give me runway. And the reason why Return of the Jedi is my favorite is because it has all the emotional catharsis. All the stuff on the Death Star is way more about what the actual film is about. You have all the set pieces, you have all the character arcs running parallel with each other. It's ultimately about one guy saving his dad. That's ultimately
gets his dad back. To. Same. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, and it's like that's why family is essential to this. Like, I feel like we actually do have to do that because, like, otherwise this becomes empty calories in a bad way rather than a middle part.
Right.
I almost feel like if you named Family Best of Both Worlds Part 3, I feel like that would maybe almost help. But I don't know.
Not quite.
I think I'm feeling what you're feeling, Idle. The plot isn't connected. There's some great scenes in this episode, but it's just all in isolation.
It's not as cohesive as part one. Part one was definitely
no
had a
through
story through.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
narratively the thread is obvious, but it doesn't feel like it's all tied together.
I feel like this would have been better. Like, a lot of two-parters going forward, like Redemption, Time's Arrow, Descent, whatever you feel like you want to rate them, but they do feel more like a two-parter episode. This feels more like I said in the Memory Alpha poll, like, the part two is like, oh fuck, how do we finish this? We need to write this because we don't know if we're coming back. And this is like early kind of, TNG had been syndicated, but they didn't know if Patrick Stewart was coming back, so they couldn't foment an idea until they had some solids. And then by that point, that's where the sort of the writing ends. And I'm not going to bash it. I still really enjoy this episode for what it is. Like, it is still some really good television. It has its flaws, but
I think it lost, as the kids say, the aura from part one.
Yes.
It just...
It strikes me why now, looking at this episode after having watched Picard Season 3 and how I thought that the end of that series was so weak, and it's because it completely ripped off Best of Both Worlds Part 2.
Yeah.
And like 100%, like there's just no bones about it. The exact same gambit, everything about it.
Well,
But I really like the idea of this being a bridge, and I'm looking forward to watching Family next.
This is one of the things, like, we moan, but we have to compromise the fact that this was a TV budget in 1990. Like, you look at Picard Season 3, right, they had a bigger budget. And, like, if you could have had Best of Both Worlds and the Enterprise D could have done some amazing fly-throughs through the Borg cube and they'd have rescued Picard, they absolutely would have. And it's one of those things, like, where do you draw the line with that kind of effect versus kind of what they had to work with, where they had to say, like, right, we have to do some more lab shots with Picard saying sleep, and then they just blow it up because that's the television scene at the time with the budget that they had.
I don't feel like this is an instance of it being constrained by it being network television. I feel like, if anything, all the effect shots are spectacles, so you don't notice the fact that there's no underlying theme of the actual episode. Like, if anything, it should be leaning more into the TV stuff. And I love this spectacle stuff. I think it's really, really impressive, and I love Riker's Gambit. I think it's great. It's absolutely in character. But
Gambit
it's like,
what
is the well, Gambit's fun. It's fun, but it's not. It doesn't amount to much, which I kind of said about this as well. Like, I think that it's driving at something in terms of Picard being a great man who comes back to himself. But the problem is that Picard doesn't have a voice until like the last 5 minutes. It's a struggle by a silent person that we just have to intuit. And it's not until Family that you kind of understand what was really going on here. And as a result, this felt like a rush. It feels like an adrenaline shot.
It's a rush.
But what happens after you have an adrenaline shot and you come down? Oh, you feel kind of empty and tired, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, that's what happened. You may in fact feel overtired.
I have a question for you. I have a question that's sort of directed a bit more at Dan and Otto than anything else. So, generally, like you like your TNG to sort of, unlike your Star Trek episodes, to be episodic, would have like a meaning and a moral value at the end. You want your episode, and also you've said before, like you want your episodes to have a meaning or a moral compass to be related to modern television. This kind of, I feel, stands outside of that in terms of technology. In terms of technology, as one might say. Like if the episode that sort of sits in my brain is Who Watches the Watchers, or Chain of Command, or something like that, something that sort of like shines a light on modern civilization. And how do you feel like, because this is these are iconic Trek episodes, these are the ones that sort of set it above and push it into the popular consciousness, like how do you feel like this sets it up as compared to those kind of moral values of which you adhere to, sort of like TNG and DS9 and Voyager?
Yeah. I don't really know. I think that I think the only real goal for this two-parter was just to make, and the allusions to Star Wars are really apt, because this is very cinematic. The fact that they were able to repackage this into a movie, they were going for something that was very different, in the same way that First Contact went for something that was very different compared to all the other Star Trek films. It's an action film. It's not a Star Trek film. It doesn't tell a Star Trek story per se. It still is a story in the Star Trek universe, but it's not a story of morality. It's a story of action and empty calories. Again, I didn't join you for the First Contact movie, but I was down on it when I first viewed it back in the day, and it's there's a lot left unsaid about humanity, about the triumph. Picard could have used his own strength of will to overcome, rather than just getting help from elite hacks or Data to jump in and knock the thing out of his hand. There's just so much about this that was, again, just another big swing in an attempt to make it more palatable. And I think the direction that Trek has taken more recently really speaks to how much we revere this two-parter, as being just a triumph, when in fact it really, when looking back on it critically, it didn't have enough to it that was really essentially Star Trek. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what was on my mind.
That's fine.
So there's a question, maybe rhetorical, maybe not, that we've asked a lot on the stream, or I guess more of a comment. Well, you can't do that every episode, or it doesn't work. Can you do morality plays every episode and have it work? I'm not sure that that's impossible in episodic format.
No, I think that's absolutely, because I think we reviewed Frame of Mind, and I don't think that's really a morality play. That's more just like
I'm just saying they don't need to all be the level watcher who watches the Watchers, but can you do
absolutely, I agree.
that kind of morality play every episode?
Not every episode is a Twilight Zone.
No.
But what is that kind of format?
That's what I'm thinking. Like in an episodic, anthological kind of series, what's stopping you from doing that every episode, other than sometimes you get like bored with the pacing?
I think part of the problem with that is the problem that you ran into in Voyager, where it's a case of, this is just XYZ TNG, especially and also in Enterprise, this is just XYZ TNG or DS9 episode, but done with a slightly different thing. Like there are a few remixes, because it's like yes, there is a massive breadth to human morality and consciousness and the nature of man, but there's only certain times you can approach it in that same morality play way. You can find different ways to tell it, but like, I don't know. I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that there are only 7 stories in the world, but like there are a set number. There are a set number of stories.
So to answer kind of answer your question, the part that grabs my attention most in this episode is when Locutus is acting as a conduit for the Borg, and he asks almost mournfully, "Why do you resist? We're only trying to improve quality of life." I'm like, oh shit, it's first contact all of a sudden. Who are the Borg? What are their aims? It's not just to abduct and kill. There's something more here. And Dan, I thought what you said was apt, that like the dictator always thinks he knows what's best, but I feel like there's more behind them. Maybe there never was, or maybe they decided not to go in that direction, but I just like that scene. Partly because Worf rises to the bait. He's so easy to provoke. I love that. But I just love him asking, like, there's emotion behind that. Is that Borg emotion? Is it Picard's emotion? Is it the meld of both? Was that the whole point of them abducting? There is like a mini episode in that scene that doesn't quite get unpacked the way that I wanted it to.
You could have had a whole series of like, what is the Borg's morality here? What is the Borg compared to human morality? And again, you're right. There could have been a whole. This could have been the first half of this. Well, they could have had a sequence abducting Picard and then had a conversation with the Borg. They could have had an almost, as much as we shit on season 2 of Picard, the actual scene of Jurati and the Borg Queen at the end, where they talk themselves into cooperation, could have worked here as well. Could have sort of like broken down the sort of like elements of what is Borgness and what is humanity, and realizing like the similarities and what is ego here, and various parts of things that are expanded. And they both failed in their own ways here, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's interesting about Locutus, is that like you look at him as this kind of iconic character, this great Trek villain, so good that they brought him back for Armada and had him fight Picard, right?
Oh, that was so good.
But if you think about him objectively, he's a massive failure, because it's like the entire concept is the best of both worlds, the melding of man with like the Borg's like machine perfection, and it's like he's literally a confused like mournful like character who just doesn't get why humanity and Klingons and everyone doesn't want to get in on this. And it's because their morality, such as it is absolute. He just doesn't understand. They can only see morality as a some good or some bad. It's a case of, well, we want to raise the quality of life for everyone. We want to make your lives better. Why do you resist? It doesn't make any sense to us. And Locutus is an abject failure. He doesn't understand. He doesn't come to a conclusion.
Is Locutus the worst of both worlds?
In the end, I think that's the conclusion that the episode comes to, is that Locutus is, despite being the sum of both, lesser than the sum of his parts, because he's not as much of a threat as the Borg are as a force, and he's not the great man that Picard is, which is why Picard overpowers him with the assistance of his friends, obviously. But it's a case of, Locutus is a failed adaptation. And that also makes it so much more ridiculous that they try and do it again in Picard season 3. Because guess what? But the Borg should have learned this lesson. This doesn't work. And that's actually kind of an interesting way of looking at it. I never, it's kind of interesting to me in that way. The fact that, Locutus is kind of a pathetic character, really, when you break it down. I suppose, like you say, most dictators are when you leave them alone in a room. Like, they're just, ranting and raving about why no one gets what they're trying to do and how the perfection of their vision is unmatched. But, yeah, it's kind of an interesting way of looking at it, really.
Let's talk about Guinan sitting in Picard's chair. That scene.
Oh, it's great, yeah.
I think I like the whole thing. I mean, because we've been kind of down on this episode. Does that work? Is this the best of?
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely think it is, because it's like that's the part of the episode that comes closest to having a point. In terms of you tried to kill whatever that is on the Borg ship, not Picard, and it's about the necessity of leaving behind what you think is of someone, and learning to be dispassionate and move on and reconsider your biases and grow as a person, even if it hurts. There's a moral point there. There's a point about character development and growth. And then Riker kind of spits in the face of it, and she's wrong, and he gets his Picard back. And yes, he's not quite the man he was. He's different, but he wins. He just flatly wins.
Yeah, I think Guinan is wrong. I think her ask of Riker is too great. She's had hundreds of years to come to terms with the loss of her entire species. This episode takes place objectively over the course of 2 or 3 days, and she's asking Riker to make this change on the term of a dime, and it lacks empathy, and it's very cold. It's not what I know of Guinan.
Okay, so who was it that said while we were watching that should have been Troy? Was that you, Dan?
Yeah, that was me.
No, talk to me about that. Would she have worded it differently, but come to the same conclusion, or would she just approach it completely differently? Or
I think Troy's insight, not being able, I don't know whether it was said or not, whether she could even detect any humanity in Picard when he was assimilated. Did they even cover that? It seems like
I think she mentions it, that she can't feel him while he's there until a certain point at which she said, "No, it's Picard," and
that's after he gets to the third level of whatever. I think that Troy's deeper insight, and she would bring more value to the scene and more believability to the fact that Picard is really well and truly gone and needs to be sacrificed. I think that would help Riker to maybe come to terms with what's going on here, but Riker being so obstinate, I guess maybe that's why they left her out, is they needed to have some plausible reason for him to kind of buck the trend. He doesn't have a relationship with Guinan. He had that little flirting scene, I think, and that was about the most that they've ever really interacted. So I guess maybe I take that back. Maybe Guinan was the right person to believe that Will still thought that there was a shred of humanity left to preserve. So.
No, I want to push back on that a little bit, because I think that it totally makes sense for Guinan to do that, because yes, Guinan is this incredible empathic, sympathetic, wonderful listener, but she's got this great gaping wound in her heart where the Borg have hurt her most than anyone else. And I feel like that is a thread that they've carried through from Q, who, there's a degree of serenity about it, but they've hurt her again here. And I think that it makes sense that she would be like, no, you're going to try and move on. I know you're probably not going to listen to me, but you're going to have to go for it. And I feel like, yes, she's wrong, but she also manages to help Will come to the right conclusion. She's the one who knocks his head loose and goes, you can't tackle this by treating it as Picard. You have to tackle this by treating it as an enemy. And I think that's what kind of knocks his head loose and gets him unstuck, because he starts that scene asking the chair, what would you do? And it's then Guinan turns up and tells him, no, you can't do that. That will kill you. If he had done what Picard expected of him, they would have lost.
So a bit of a non sequitur here, but because I know you hate it, Stars. At the end, when Shelby says we'll be up and running under a year, to me that just read okay, that is the Shelby we knew from episode 1. That is her drive and her ambition, and she's just overestimating her abilities. We'll have it, no problem. And that to me didn't clang at all against my ears. I thought it was just a read on her character. So
I just think it's really callous in a way. It's I don't think they establish a death toll in this episode, but we get one later, and it's clearly meant to be a massive loss. We'll have that fixed under a year. And it's okay. What about all the people who died? What about them? We don't care about that. We only care about getting back Picard. Okay. I think they established 11,000. Fuck Jennifer, fuck Hanson, fuck all the named characters who died in that. Okay, cool. We don't care about that. And there's this thing about her delivery there where it's it's so chipper. And I feel the Shelby of part 1 might have said the exact same line, but it would have been with ambition and drive, not with a chippiness of it's all. It feels like a wink at the the viewer that don't worry, there will still be an Excelsior class in the next episode to ferry some admiral along to give you a problem.
Just in time for the Dominion War.
I think we're ready to move on.
We are. I had to take a small wee break there, but let's have some bread. The moment in the episode that stood out to you the most, the same way that Picard going bread in Babel stood out to us. I'm going to start with Otto. What was your bread of the episode?
It's them in the science lab when he's mostly naked, and Data's got his arm. Just something about the visual. I like the science lab room. They redress it a few different times, like using different sets, but it's a distinctive look. And those two, just trying to, it's robot to robot trying to restore humanity. It's just such a fun juxtaposition. I always think about them in that room when I think about this episode.
Let's go diagonal, Dan.
Okay. Everything. So redone very well in the Avengers.
That's you and me, fuck sauce. Jesus.
How much did it cost you, Thanos? Everything. And so yeah, Picard has his little Shakespearean aside where he gets to look directly in the camera, and what can you remember? Everything. And he communicates so much. You could see it's amazing the way he turns on and off his disconnect to his own humanity, and you can see it in his face. And what he does, what Patrick Stewart does, is just remarkable, and I don't know anybody else who could have done it as well. And he does it right there when he just drops everything, and you can see the vulnerability in that one moment when he says it to the camera. It really hits home.
Okay, I'm gonna go next on the bread scale here. Oh fuck! I've forgotten it now. Oh yeah, that's right. The three tiny
it can't
little.
Be that memorable then.
No, it is. It is. I had a brief alcoholic moment there. No, it's the three tiny little ships that tried the Earth's perimeter defense being three ships. And I have a small fun fact. God. The Mars defense perimeter ships, which appear as the Borg ship approaches Mars, were based on the submarine model used in the Hunt for the Red October. And were made from a hull. Wow. They are basically three small submarines that try and attack the Borg cube. That is the entirety of Starfleet are so fucking lackluster. No wonder the Dominion rolled them over. If they've got fucking three small ships.
Listen, you're only ship in the quadrant.
Exactly, yeah, I was going to say, the Enterprise is the only ship in like 100 fucking parsecs or whatever it is. So yeah, that's definitely going to be my bread. Stars, finish the loaf. Treat yourself.
My bread is the side profile shot of the interior of the shuttle. As you see it take off from the shuttle bay, going off into the antimatter spread fire. Like, it's such a cool, like, perspective shot, and it's so obviously, like, you can tell easily how it was done. It's not a particularly.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine it was a particularly challenging shot for them to do, but it's very effective at portraying motion and like the chaos of it, and yeah, it's a very Star Wars-y like moment, but that's the one that I think worked the most for me. I really, really enjoyed that.
So, as far as your Voyager file, it reminded me a lot of, it may have happened more than once, episodes where they take the Delta Flyer to try to slip past the Borg's defense perimeter, and just somehow the way it was shot reminded me a lot of those episodes.
I could see it. Yeah, I'm thinking specifically of it. Is it in Unimatrix Zero, or is it in Dark Frontier where they park the Delta Flyer like directly behind like a fucking Unimatrix? Yeah.
It happened more than once.
Yeah, just a plain Unimatrix. Nothing special about it at all. Just the hub of fucking all Borg. Okay.
The best advice I can give you is to just be yourself.
You're the worst thing that ever happened to Zek. You're the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Actually, that's the second best piece of advice.
In fact, you're the worst thing that ever happened to the entire Ferengi Alliance.
No.
Just
Do you know what I love about that? The fact I haven't had to do any pitch correction. Picard's no is perfectly at that third point in the arpeggio. It's so good.
You know what you should do, Idol? You should create like 6 or like 7 variations of it with like different variations on the no gag, and then you just put it on a randomizer so you don't know which one you're gonna get.
That is very tempting to do. I can do that. That is something I have the power to do. Best and worst moment in the episode. Where did we start last time? So I done stars. You go first. Let's do reverse snake.
Ooh. Guess what? I'm gonna be a basic bitch. I'm gonna be a basic male image, and I'm gonna go for the easiest best in the entire series, maybe. And it's that moment when everyone leaves Picard in a room for the very first time in 3 days, alone with his thoughts. No longer, no Borg, no Riker, no Crusher, and he has his little coffee, little teacup. You can hear the little clink, and Stewart just plays it so perfectly. It is literally pitch perfect, and you get the slow turn to the bridge window music. It's incredible. I think that's the I've been spending a lot of this review like bashing on this episode for it being like empty, and it's like maybe, but I think that still has like a mother of all gut punches of like no. This is it's the assault of a person's humanity, and it's going to have consequences, and he'll never be the same person again. And I really love how they communicate that with no words. It's beautiful. In terms of my worst,
sorry, while you're thinking, I just to piggyback, there's the change in his demeanor actually is impressive because he is projecting normal Picard. He raises I don't know if he maybe smirks or smiles slightly once, but he's very good at projecting normal Picard. He even raises the drink, and then as soon as the doors close, the facade drops.
It falls and it's gone. Yeah. Worst, it might just be Shelby. It's Shelby. Like I stumped for her so badly in part 1, and then she's just a whole lot of nothing here. There's nothing to her. Like we have that one conversation in engineering, and she's fixed. That's it. And I don't know. Maybe that's nice. The idea that in the Starfleet future, everyone's a professional enough that it's crunch time. Have one conversation, get it out of your system. We're in. It's crunch time now. But she's nothing after that point. She could be, she could be Lieutenant Commander, whatever. But she's not Shelby anymore. She's just empty.
I actually really like that scene, but they probably should have put it at the end.
Yeah,
as to like, okay, good luck in the future with your next command. I'm sure you'll get it, kind of thing. So. Yeah,
because it comes too early in the episode, and there's nothing for her to do after that apart from just say yes and no. Really. Yeah.
I'm going to go next. My favourite moment is the whole Picard being assimilated section. So when you get him strapped to the table and you see some of the body horror, you kind of get a bit of the... Again, it's more Borg lore drop, really. You see them sort of needlessly shading his skin, attaching a new arm part, and you see the little tear, which is the first kind of hint of the humanity coming through. I kind of love that. That's a really nice scene, and it's like it's nice to have that kind of development of how much humanity still sticks through despite all this sort of cybernetic work. My worst part is the extension of that is just like, and Picard is fixed. Aside from all the traumatic memories, Voyager struggled to get 7 to that level. Appreciate 7 had been assimilated since she was a child, but also there's the whole XB project in Picard and stuff like that. And the precedent is that can we just fix people that have gone through that much traumatic things? Is Starfleet Medical that good? And sometimes it isn't. It's very kind of inconsistent on what they can do, but it is an episodic kind of show, and they had to get Picard back into the chair. So
it made me think, actually, in that moment, did the Borg make adaptations in the future because they lost Picard so easily? Because when they work on 7, a billion times they mention, oh, these are Borg fail-safes to prevent you from returning to humanity. Did they maybe see what went wrong with Locutus and said, right, we'll fix that in the future? I mean, that's me explaining plot away, but...
No, you could be right.
I feel like given how the Borg is set up with the adaptation and everything, I feel like that kind of... I feel like there's room for that, the interpretation of it.
I will render my worst moment. Pointless then. Also, go next. That's fine.
Right, I got 2 best for you.
Oh,
first of all, Gleason, what a mensch! That guy didn't blink for 42 minutes. He was on it. He wasn't gonna miss a damn thing.
Yeah.
My other best, when they are in the bready space in my head, when they're in the science lab, and Locutus activates. And he turns, and they show a reaction shot of Brent. Fear on Data's face, which you will never see that particular shot from Brent Spiner again. I'm like, whoa, that was something. My worst. There's a scene on the bridge in the aft science station using multimodal reflection sorting. I've been able to detect the complex series, and all of a sudden, the fucking Riz was gone. All the aura from episode 1, I'm like, oh, this is just an episode of Star Trek again. And it lost all the cachet that it had built up was just gone, and we're in an episode. And I love TNG, but it was an episode from then on. So,
Dan.
Yeah. I struggle to find a best. You guys have already taken some of the good ones, so I'll default to the lore dump when Data literally is downloading exposition through Locutus, and we get to get a little bit of insight into how the Borg is structured, and a little bit of lore there to get some color to him. Of course, this is 5 minutes before they blow them all up, and presumably we never see him again. So whatever. But there's just not a lot of standout moments for me. Although I can absolutely point to the worst moment. It's in the ready room at the end of the episode when Riker and Shelby are like all smiles. And, you know, there's presumably 10,000 people dead, and they're all smiles. It's one hair short of a T.J. Hooker freeze frame after they make nice.
Yeah,
and it's just.
I feel like Emissary is the apology to that. I feel like most of Emissary and Sisko's trauma is basically like, oh no, shit did happen. Like, but you are right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The man who loves hitting triggers is somehow reticent to hit another trigger.
I'm letting the moment breathe before
it's your pick.
I can show you my rating code.
Schiller rating 3-5.
Associational rating norm -3.
That's much too low a rating.
I was not accustomed to seeing an unsatisfactory rating on a member of my crew.
Gentlemen, last episode I gave you a simulated Aviform former and a matte painted canvas, mutating needlessly. This episode I'm going to give you a Schiller rating of, gentlemen, how many unblinking Gleasons out of 10
Thank you.
is this
Thank you, that's a good one.
See, I wanted that one, but I knew if I said it out loud, you'd pull a stars and be like, well, now I'm not going to do it.
No, I definitely clocked that as soon as we started talking about it. I was like, no, unblinking Gleasons is absolutely there.
Listen, you can never zig when they think you're going to zag.
Yep, you just got to keep going. You got to pull a Riker. Dan, start us off.
Well, I started with my pre-rated an 8. Unfortunately, I think this has gone down. Now, while I do appreciate getting a resolution, it didn't fulfill me. This was a whole lot of build-up that was done in the first episode, all the groundwork laid in Q-Who, just to basically put them all to sleep, have them blow themselves up for a reason I still don't really completely understand. You know, everything presumably going back like a Brady Bunch ending, right? Jen got her nose fixed and everything's fine, and it just, I'm not happy after watching this. I don't feel as fulfilled as the characters do, and that's a disconnect that's hard for me to resolve.
Talk over you. I feel like this is like, you know, you talk about episodic television, and I feel like this is kind of the one episode you don't want that to happen. Like this 2-parter, especially. Like we talk about the average episode TNG. Okay, they got to wrap it up and do the serialization point, but they come to such a point, you know. And again, I reference it when Who Watches the Watchers, which is like a perfect capsule of television. They get to the point and they move on. This is not an episode you can do that with. Sorry, carry on.
Anyway, yeah, that's about it. So I guess I'm gonna have to downgrade this. It's gonna be pretty sharp. I think I'm gonna bring this episode down to a 6. Glazed over gaze Gleasons, unblinking Gleasons.
Gaze Gleasons.
Out of 10. So.
Oh, since I'm continuing diagonally, Auto.
So this is interesting to me. I enjoyed it more than part 1, which I gave a 7.82. There are some really good scenes. I love that shuttle craft scene. Just it's almost, I want to use the word brilliant, the way that they used a minimal budget to convey a lot of action and suspense. I liked Guinan in talking to Riker. I like that brief moment where Locutus, what is there to the Borg? Is there more? And they kind of blue balled us on that. But, I don't do this too often, but you guys have really talked me down on this. It was so discordant. You have all these scenes, a lot of them are good scenes actually, but I feel like there's no link to anything. So I do have to downgrade this, even though I enjoyed it more than part one. I'm going to give this 6.9 on Blinking Gleasons. It's eminently watchable for me, but you may not remember that you watched it tomorrow, if that makes sense.
I'm going next. We'll finish on New Stars. Yeah, this is weird. This is the one occasion, because there is the omnibus edition where you can watch part 1 and part 2 spliced together without the continuation. I feel like that almost feels like that's the superior version, almost in a way, because you have the throughput and you can kind of forgive a lot of the plot points that kind of get washed over. Okay, we don't see Shelby getting any meaningful exposition other than, cool, Riker's my friend, I'm off. And sort of like we do get some juicy Borg lore, which I do like. We get this expansion to a race that we kind of hope we'll see some more of. I never thought at the end of Best of Both Worlds, I never thought like, oh, we're never seeing the Borg again. I thought, well, there's got to be more ships out there. They'll revisit, and they don't really. They do I Borg, which is an amazing episode. Unfortunately, they do Descent, but it was not until Voyager did we get. And me being, how old was it at the time? Like 15, 16, and coming up and seeing like the episode where Chakotay encounters the Borg skeleton in the forest and then comes across the sort of like, the sort of the coalition of sort of Borg remnants, and then going into Scorpion was probably the most hype I've been, and Best of Both Worlds set that up. Because it set up a lot of the lore, and, for whatever we think of the Borg going forward, Scorpion was an amazing kind of like, oh shit, we're there for the best reasons.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about Scorpion right now, and I think I might actually rate it a bit higher than this.
Kind of thinking that too, but we'll see.
That is a Shia draft pick.
It is indeed.
Shia's got good taste.
But there is a lot of discordant in this script. Like I said before, there's a lot of pods where they were just like, it feels like they were like, right, let's just throw a few things into this script and just see what sticks, and then leave them there. Like, okay, we've abducted Locutus, let's have him talk to Worf and talk to the crew. Like, this is what makes us android humans from the return from the forbidden planet a little bit, and it was. It felt a little discordant at times. I still really enjoy it, but I feel like I enjoy it more as a single episode as opposed to the two individual parts coming back from the cliffhanger, and I think that's the one thing that's done really well on that front. That being said, I have to respect I've got to pick a number, and like, as much as there are parts of this I don't enjoy, I have to respect it going forward and going back. I'm going to give this 7 unblinking Gleasons. This was good. It has its place in Trek history for sure. It is something I will rewatch, because you will rewatch Best of Both Worlds.
You got to have your resolution. Yep.
Yeah, you won't just watch part 1 and go, fuck it. Sorry.
When I feel let down or disappointed by an episode, and I'm like, oh, I should, be harsh and gradient or whatever, then I think about episodes like Code of Honor, some like really boring shit. I'm like, all right, no, it can be a 6 or 7, and you can still feel disappointed with it. It can still be above average and not as good as it should have been. So
no, this is it. It's still a good episode. It's still a resolution. It expands the lore. It does a good lot for Borg. It does a lot for fucking Picard. This is an essential Picard episode for his going forward into First Contact and into whatever you think of it for the Picard series as well. So 3 points off there. Stars, take us home.
Yeah, this has a unique problem in that it's almost not a story, it's almost not an episode, it is a collection of scenes. And that collection of scenes this collection of scenes, I would say that 85 to 90% of them are good scenes. But the problem is that the connective tissue between these scenes is not clear. It is haphazard. It's, like you say, discordant is a good word for it. It's not until you really sit back and really kind of think about what this episode has to say that you realize that it doesn't have a lot to say at all. That being said, I think it's still I think it's a perfectly fine ender, especially considering if you consider it not really the ender but the mid part and lead into family, what it kind of actually is. It's not really designed to stand on its own. I think if you're gonna do a movie version of Best of Both Worlds, it really should come with family as the third act. I think that'd be a really that's a way more interesting
Shire, one might say.
Maybe so. Because there are parts of it that I can point to and say that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. But when I think of the episode as a whole, I don't think, oh, what a fucking disappointment. I think it's just not as good as part one. So maybe this is your kind of. This is a subjective rating. I can't really explain it to you in any other words, but it's just 8 unblinking Gleasons out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
I think it's still a really well produced, well put together, well acted, well written episode, but I don't think it's a good story. I think the individual bits are well written, but I don't think the story is good, which I think is maybe a weird distinction to make, but it doesn't connect together in a satisfying way. And it's not until you sit back and think about it like this that you really realize that. Until I sat down to watch it with you guys, I was like, yeah, it's not as good, but it's still pretty good. And I'm like, it's only now that I'm like, yeah,
it's that critical eye, isn't it? When you actually sit and study it with other people, you kind of go like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But guess what? I'm a whore for empty calories. So what can I say?
Amen, brother.
I'd like to throw in just because we'll never get back to this unless we review Picard at some point. As much as they kind of gutted Shelby, I did appreciate what Elizabeth Dennehy was doing. She can't change a script, but she was trying to give a little smirk, a little sass, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her for what happened. I think she was actually pretty good in part two.
Consummate performer, absolutely.
I would have welcomed her back in her prime, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, she never got another shot to show up. Yeah,
I would have loved if, at the end of this, okay, she's not the first officer, but she's a part of the crew because she's such a unique character. You compare to Crusher and Troy as the other sort of female leads, she has a definite different energy. She would have fitted in. There would have been no sort of awkwardness, but. That's not how Bowman works.
If I said that Ro is a refined version, almost.
Absolutely, could have been,
different dynamic, rejigged, but
I feel like if her and Riker that storyline were its own episode, I would appreciate it more. Yeah, because when you have the big Borg threat punching you in the face, I want to be like, no, this ain't the time for that. Everyone follow the chain of command because that's just how I prefer it, but.
Okay, so
at the end of that.
At the end of that, we have rated exactly a 7.0 for the Best of Both Worlds, which scored as exactly this part 2, exactly the same as the Corbinate maneuver. 0.1 higher
another
than the
controversial one that hurt Dan deeply.
I know.
0.1 higher than the Cage, 0.3 higher than the Motion Picture. Could you believe it? I'm outraged, but not as good as Babel, not as good as Subspace Rhapsody, not as good as Terra Prime, which was a 7.3, which we thought was the weaker of the two. This has definitely been an interesting conversation to have, especially about this episode.
Idle. So, what was the rating for part 1?
Part 1 was
9.3.
9.3. Yeah.
So 9.3 and 7. What's the aggregate of that?
What combined?
8.15.
Yeah, because if we've got part 1 and part 2.
Oh, you mean the average?
Yeah, so 8.2 for
yeah.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean,
pretty bad. This is one of the most revered two-parters of all time. Wow. That's pretty bad. I think we just shat on history, guys. I'm sorry.
Guess what? I'm the guy that will tell you with a straight face that Sean Connery is the worst James Bond. So guess what? Maybe that's on par for me.
They're never going to clip us for the 50-year Blu-ray anniversary edition, will they?
Sponsorship. Yeah.
Well, considering it's 60 years, we've definitely missed our chance. But okay. All right, thank you everyone in chat for watching. Thank everyone for watching this review. This has been a blast. We will be back on Wednesday, the 25th of February, to review Family. So part 3 coming up. Our return to the Jedi to this 2-part Star Wars entry in discussion. Yeah, why don't we have that anymore? Where the yeah, thank you, Dan.
I think it's exclamation mark video.
No, you have to do this.
He changes the triggers every 5 days.
It's because I use a new system. There we go. I just realised what a fucking massive guitar that guy has. It's huge. Anyway, thank you for watching.
They're a mariachi band, dude.
We will see you soon. Come and join us on Wednesday. Live long, prosper, and ta-ra. Bye-bye.
And keep your Gleason.
So, this is what we've decided. Lisa gets you Tuesdays and Fridays. I get you Mondays and Thursdays.
We, alternate Wednesdays and weekends.
Hold on, I don't think I'm old enough to hear this kind of thing. Ladies, good day. Romano, good luck. You can return my car in the morning. If you can still drive, I'm taking the bus.